What's up, Sagebrush? Hi, and welcome to our weekly message discussion video where we want to help you take the principles from the weekend message and live them out in a practical way during the week. My name is Eric Williams, and as always, I am with my good friend, Pastor Andrew Poe. And Andrew, we are in a brand new series this week. Can you say hi to everybody and let us know kind of what the series is about?
I would love to say hello to everybody in the Facebook world. Good to see you guys. Thank you for joining us. You might be on Facebook or you might be on YouTube, but we're thrilled that you're spending this afternoon with us out there. I already saw my buddy Cassandra is online with us and Nancy's online with us. So thanks so much, you guys, for making time just to be with us here today. Hey, our message discussion is all about talking about what we learned on the weekend. And this last weekend, we just kicked off a brand new series called Wake Up Call. And I am not a big fan of the alarm clock. I don't enjoy hearing my alarm clock go off in the morning, but everybody needs a wake up call from time to time. And especially when it comes to how you're living your life. Man, if you're not living your life about things that matter, this is your wake-up call. And man, we are excited for the next few weeks, pulling these scriptures apart and talking all about what it takes to be aware that life doesn't last forever.
That's right. And one of the best things to do is to have that conversation throughout the week. And so that's why we are here with you every single Monday, well, most every Monday, right around noon. And we have people watching from all over. So somebody joining in from Phoenix. So if you're outside of the state of New Mexico, let us know where you're at. In fact, you can comment along with us in the comments if you're watching this live, or pop some comments in later on. If you're watching this with your small group, make sure you hit pause when we ask the questions, so that way you can discuss it as a group, or let us know in the comments, because we're going to go through the small group curriculum. And as we talk about every week, small groups are so important here at the church. Andrew, give us a little bit of a reason why.
Yeah, small groups are really the bread and butter of this church, because this is the way that we help people to grow closer to Christ. And man, it's our way of remembering what we talked about on the weekend. And so, man, it's not enough just to go to church on the weekend to really have your life be changed. We believe that transformation really happens when you get into a group, because there you're going to be held accountable to live out the principles that we learn on the weekend. And that's the place where you're going to get some friends. And everybody needs a good buddy in their life, just like my buddy Eric here.
That's right.
That's right.
We have people hopping in here from California, from Nebraska, from Colorado, upstate New York, all over the place. And the best thing is that we've got groups available not only that are meeting in person around our physical locations, we have online groups that are meeting online. We also have host groups in different communities all across the country that are meeting. So if you are interested in joining a small group, if you're not plugged into one right now, go ahead, and there's going to be a link down in the comments. It's probably in there already. You can check it out on the Sagebrush app, go to decisions, or go to sagebrush.church/groups to get plugged in to a group today. Or let us know in the comments that you're not involved in a group, and we have some pastoral care team members that would love to help get you plugged in. So we're going to talk through the small group curriculum today. We're going to go through some questions, but we typically start with an icebreaker. So everybody answer in the comments. If you were given an extra hour to do anything you wanted every day, what would you do with that time? Let us know in the comments. Andrew, what would you do?
I think for me, I would probably exercise or run, because my life has been so busy lately, just running around and taking care of lots of different responsibilities, both with my kids and with my work, that I don't have a lot of time to work out. But man, if I had an extra hour, Eric, I'd be at CrossFit with you, or I'd be somewhere else, you know, just doing something fun. But man, I would love to work out a little bit more. What about for you?
This is a tough one for me, because is it an extra hour that everybody gets? Do we get 26 hours in the day? Because if so, it's not really like,
it's not extra.
I've asked for I've said if I had the power to do one thing, it would stop everyone else from working so I could catch up for an hour.
Yes.
Because I mean, there's just administrative tasks, especially at work, that I need to do, I need to get done. But it's like, I feel like as I start to get things knocked off my checklist, more things get added as I'm going. And I'm like, if I could just catch up, I would love an hour every day, even an hour at the end of the week, that I could just catch up where my kids aren't bothering me, where I don't have work responsibilities, right? Just catch up with stuff. So that's what I would do.
I do that from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. in the morning.
Yes. I mean,
that's about the best time.
Generally, that's
what you got to do.
But then you cut away from the sleep, everything. Of course, now I feel terrible because other people say,
then I'll spend time with Jesus.
No. Well, that would be good. But spend time with my children, time with the grandkids, time to do outdoors things with the kids, spend more time with my daughter and granddaughter. Okay. Maybe the answer is I probably should have said spend more time with my family.
No, it's just because you do this so well. You always spend time with your family.
Maybe. Okay.
You're
all
doing
right.
great.
So yeah, thanks. Keep entering them in there in the comments. What would you do with an extra hour every single day? This week, Andrew, we talked about how short our time is here on Earth. And why do you think it's important for us to understand that our time on Earth is so short?
Well, I love this weekend because Todd always gives the best object lessons. And this weekend, it was the can of air freshener, which he sprayed all over our auditorium. And I could smell it all the way back from my seat. And I was sitting in the very back of the room. But it was such a cool visual reminder that your life is but a vapor, right? It appears for a short time and then it passes away. And I think when you live without that mindset where, man, I'm just going to last forever and I'm immortal, you don't live for things that are serious. You get caught up in chasing after dreams or chasing after this or that, but you don't live a life of substance. And that's not what God wants for us. He wants us to live a life that really matters. What about for you?
Yeah, I think when you realize how short your time is, or that there's a finite sense to your life, it makes the amount of time that you spend more important. It helps you with your priorities, all those other sorts of things. And I think, I'm in my late 30s at this point. So middle age, probably.
Yes.
I don't know.
You're not quite as middle age as me, but you're doing great.
But in this spot where it's like you start to realize your kids are growing up, you start to realize your parents are getting older, you start to realize you're getting older. If I go to sleep, I can get a full 8 hours of sleep, but my body will say, no, you did it the wrong way. And now, you ever get that where you're like, oh, I slept for 8 hours.
But it was 9 hours this time.
In your neck, you're like, what happened there? And your body's like, you did it wrong. And it's like, oh, okay. Or if I eat the wrong thing at the wrong time, I'm getting older. That's the point. And I'm starting to realize that time is short. And so the way that we spend it with others is much more important.
Yes.
So we're going to be opening up the Bible here. So if you want to open up another tab on your browser or pull out your phone or get one of your regular paper Bibles out, we're going to be in James chapter 4, verses 13 through 17. As we read, think about this. How would you summarize these verses in one sentence? Here we go. Look here, you who say, today or tomorrow we are going to a certain town and will stay there a year. We will do business there and make a profit. How do you know what your life will be like tomorrow? Your life is like a morning fog. It's here a little while and then it's gone. What you ought to say is, if the Lord wants us to, we will live and do this or that. Otherwise, you are boasting about your own pretentious plans, and all such boasting is evil. Remember, it is sin to know what you ought to do and then not do it. So how would you summarize these verses in one sentence? And then what we want to do too is figure out verse 17. Why do you think that reminder is kind of thrown in there?
Ooh, so good. I think my sentence is obviously life is short. And so make the most of how you live.
Yep.
Life is short. And that's what he says. Your life is but a fog.
Fog.
I like this translation of it. It's like the morning fog.
Right.
That comes in. Eric's wearing a nice jacket today. Can we get a shot at Eric's jacket? It's kind of a London foggish. It's very squishy.
Yeah, it's noisy.
It's very noisy as far as the jacket goes. But yeah, it's like a morning fog, right? It doesn't last forever. It comes for just a short time, and that is so our life. Yep. And how you live really matters. And so what you invest in and what you spend your time doing, that's always so important. Then I love that it closes with that verse, right? If it says, remember, it is sin to know what you ought to do and then not do it. And so here's that reminder at the end here in James where it says, hey, you got to do this now. You got to make the most of every day. There's no time for just wasting your moments and just living a life that doesn't matter. Man, make the most of those opportunities that you have and don't get caught up in getting stuck in the things of this world. And a lot of us do that, right? Where we get so obsessed with our jobs, or we get so obsessed with our house, or all those certain things. And man, all those things won't last. Life is just a mist. So
yeah, I think, if you look at like in the New Living Translation, which we just read from, the title at the top says warning about self-confidence. Ooh. And so I think that to me, right, like that's something that I think summarizes a little bit of what we're talking about here, is to not be so confident that you know what's going to happen. Right. So when your life is like a fog, or if you're in the Albuquerque area, or maybe for some of you in the Southwest, it's like the winter snow that we get here in this area where it's like most of my friends from Midwest or other places are like, oh, it snows there? Yeah, but wait till noon and it's all gone, right? It's all gone by that point because the sun comes out and it's gone. And so if I woke up in the morning and I was like, yes, it's snowing, right? Or I think, oh, no, it's snowing. The roads are going to be terrible and it's going to be wintry and now I'm going to go buy all the toilet paper and all the other stuff because I'm going to freak out because, like, in my context here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that's overconfident about what's going to happen when in fact it's like that's not up to me. And so I think living our life knowing what we ought to do day to day and not doing it, that's why they throw that in there too. Is like, don't be so confident that you know what's going to happen in the future. Do what's right here now in the moment. Anything else there?
No, I think that's great, Eric. Good reminder too of, man, our confidence isn't in ourselves, right? It's in God, and God's got a plan for all of our life. And man, this is that wake up call for us to realize, man, He's got a plan for your life. You just have to acknowledge it.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to move on to
First.
Well, yeah, I was going to say a second scripture here.
Yes.
1 Corinthians 3, 9 through 15. 1 Corinthians 3, 9 through 15. For we are both God's workers, and you are God's field. You are God's building. Because of God's grace to me, I have laid the foundation like an expert builder. Now others are building on it. But whoever is building on this foundation must be very careful, for no one can lay any foundation other than the one we already have, which is Jesus Christ. Anyone who builds on that foundation may use a variety of materials, gold, silver, jewels, wood, hay, or straw. But on the judgment day, the fire will reveal what kind of work each builder has done. The fire will show if a person's work has any value. If the work survives, that builder will receive a reward. But if the work is burned up, the builder will suffer great loss. The builder will be saved, but like someone barely escaping through the wall of flames. Now, according to these verses, how will the work of each builder be revealed, and how does this message challenge followers of Christ to live in light of the truth in these verses? Let us know what you think in the comments.
Yeah, I love this passage of scripture because the deeper context of this is that Paul was kind of a superstar in the culture back then. And so in the churches, man, everybody loved Paul. But there were also equally other people that were well loved as evangelists and apostles. One of the guys' name was Apollos, and they loved Apollos as well. And so they had this kind of competition of who's the better guy to follow. And so here in this point, he's making the point that, man, your motives matter. And all that you do, man, that is really what's going to be tested. Like all the different motivations and the reasons why you did things, he reminds us that one day we're all going to stand before God. And Todd talked about this last weekend. He talked about the Bema Seat judgment, where all of our works and all of our things are going to be laid before God and they're going to burn up. Which is kind of sad. Like, all the things that you've worked so hard on and everything else. But all that's going to burn up so that we can see were your motives really pure in all the things that you did. Did you do it with the right motivation, or was it about kind of yourself? And so in that whole point, like the idea is, man, live a life with the right motivations. Now, I could do nice things to get noticed or to be raised up or to be upstanding in our community, or I could do things out of a heart that says, man, I want to please God with every breath that I have, with every day and with every moment. And that's my motivation for doing this. And I think that that's the things that are going to really matter in eternity.
Yeah. And I like the language that we're using here. Obviously, there's allegory being used, talking about the fire and, trying to explain this like deep theological concept that's tough for the readers at the time in the Corinthian church to really get and grasp. And so, just like you said, Andrew, thinking about all of the things that we have are eventually going to burn away, going to melt away, going to whatever, analogy you want to use. But I like in verse 10 and 11 where he's talking about that foundation and that foundation being Jesus Christ.
Yes.
And now I'm not a handy guy. I'm not a builder, anything like this. But what I understand for those of you who are is like, you can't have this foundation and then start building the house on a different foundation. There's a foundation here, and that's what matters. And so just like you said, thinking about all of the things that I'm doing, is that actually built on a foundation of Jesus and how Jesus wants me to live my life? Or am I building that foundation based on some of these other things? Is it the likes on social media? Is it, the admiration of my peers? Is it, the steps I'm taking at work? Is it, my salary? Is it the things in my driveway, right? Those sorts of things. And maybe some of those things can exist in this other foundation, but are they being built for that proper foundation?
That's so good.
All right, let's see here. Next question, how do the challenges from both James 4 and 1 Corinthians 3 affect the way that you want to spend your time now? Let's get practical, Andrew.
Yeah, I think I want to put my time and my effort into things that last forever.
Okay.
Things that are going to last for all eternity. And I think that there's really clear in Scripture what those things are. I mean, God lasts forever. Our family, and our relationships that we have through that, and then our friendships and those things are what really matters most. And so it really makes you reevaluate, man, am I putting that time and that effort into those things that are going to last? Which is why I love that a lot of the people in the chat were like, yeah, how would I spend that extra hour a week? And it was all about spending time with your family, which that's a good use of your time, pouring into your kids and spending time with your spouse and everything else. Man, those are things that are going to last for all eternity. But don't we get caught up in all the wrong things? And that's where I'm at a lot of times, is where, man, I come through for the end of the day and the end of the week, and I've spent so much time doing things that may not matter in all of eternity.
Yeah.
So,
no, I agree. I think that's it's very important to remember as you're going on and you're thinking about your life, you're thinking about how do you want to be remembered, what do you want to last and leave behind. And so in that 1 Corinthians passage, it's very much like what's going to be evaluated by God, which is obviously important, but a lot of us, we can't conceptualize what's going to happen there. And to be honest, nobody other than Jesus has ever gone to that point and come back to tell us what it's like and what's actually going to be at stake. So I think there's a pretty good motivation to go, what is going to be left over after we're gone? What's that legacy that you want to leave behind? And even thinking about it in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, and understanding that it's just like, when you have people that talk about saving for retirement, they're always like, oh, the best thing to do is to start
young.
early, start young. But they're always like, oh, if you're 40, if you're 50, you don't just give up now.
Yeah.
You need to start now. The best time to start saving for retirement was yesterday. The next best time is right now. So in that same legacy moment, going like, what are you living your life for? What do you want to be remembered for? What do you want people to remember about you when you're gone? What do you want all of this to amount and add up to? Do you want it to say that even if the entire house burns down, the foundation the house was built on was Jesus, and it was about the things that Jesus called you to? Or was it going to be on something else that at the end of your life is honestly not going to matter? And I mean, we've talked about this so many times, you and I just chatting back and forth about doing funerals and officiating funerals and being there when people pass and the stories that you tell. And it's just like, you can tell it's such a better experience when somebody has lived their life on a foundation of Christ as opposed to not.
Yeah. So true.
Anything else on that question?
No, I think that you're right on. And I'm doing a funeral tomorrow for a gal who is 97 years old.
Yeah.
She grew up here in New Mexico out on a ranch.
Yep.
And man, she only, she basically her highest level of education was the 6th grade.
Yeah.
But this lady loved God and she had a deep relationship. 129 grandkids.
Whoa, what?
That's crazy, dude. 129
Wow.
grand and great grandchildren.
Okay,
I mean, just legacy.
Not
lady.
that makes it any like.
Yes.
Okay.
It's just a lot of kids,
It's a lot, yeah.
But man, but she lived her life about what matters most, and I'm sure that funeral is going to just be filled, with people and people watching online who this lady made an impact on.
Yep.
And man, that is so different from a funeral where, man, they live for themselves, or man, they just weren't really involved in a lot of things. And I know right now COVID's hit, so it's hard for lots of people to show up at funerals and everything like that. So I totally get that. But it's hard to do a funeral as a pastor when a person has had misplaced priorities.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and so Larissa in the comments here says we need to be obsessed with Jesus. When you're obsessed with something, it's your priority. It's all you can think about, and that's how we need to be with him. He is all that matters. And so, yeah. And,
so good, Larissa.
And I would take that one step further there and like actually living that out in a practical way. Because I think, when you have 100, you said 126?
126 grand and great grandchildren.
Grand and great grandchildren in addition to her children and friends and family. When you've lived 90 years, when you've touched so many different lives, like you've probably had people, and I'm sure it's the same way when you're officiating funerals, like the people that are closest to you, they see you in the good times, in the bad times. They could see through some of that facade you try to put
Correct.
up. And I love that analogy of it being like a building, because so many times we put up these cheap decorations on the outside that can hide what's really the foundation of that structure.
Yep.
And when push comes to shove, when the weather hits, when the bad times hit, those things will fall away, and it reveals what's actually underneath. And so that's for me. The next question is take a minute to evaluate how you spend your time now. What's going well? What changes would you like to make? And what's one step that you can take to better live in light of eternity? And so as you answer that below, like for me, it's really realizing that like at the end of my life, there's not going to be any hiding anymore, right? The things that I'm trying to get across, I'm trying to hide, that's not going to happen. And so what are the good things that are going to remain? And that's the way that you treat other people. That's the way that you live out the things that Jesus has called us to in the lives of others. What do you think?
Yeah, for me, I have to evaluate my own life, and I have to look at, how much time I'm actually spending at work.
Yep.
And this is a hard one as a pastor, because our work is right entwined with God, and it's entwined with leaving a legacy that matters. But it can get very, very busy at Sagebrush. There's a lot going on. And in fact, this last week I had 2 weddings and 2 funerals on top of everything else that I do at the church. And so,
And you had a message to give.
and everything else. And so it's just like, there's been a lot going on. And so I've had to look at it and go, how do I pace myself in the midst of all this? How do I really act like, and really, how do I be fully present with my own children,
right,
instead of thinking about the next message that I have to give or what I have to do at work and everything else? And so this has been a struggle for me, but I do better when I'm extremely focused on this idea that, I only get this shot once.
Right.
My daughter turns 14 years old. And I know, it's so crazy. I can't believe we've gone here. But she's turning 14 really soon. And the time just goes so fast.
Yeah.
We're realizing, we have 4 more years until our daughter goes to college.
Yep.
And we're just at that place where we're reevaluating, going, I've got to make the most of these minutes that I have with her. So what about for you, bro?
Yeah, I think that as we're going on in this, as we've had time through COVID and the lasting pandemic, as people in our family have passed away or are close to that situation, it's really helped me realize that the one aspect, if I could just pick one aspect of kind of how Jesus lived his life and how he calls us to live his life, is that sacrificial aspect of thinking that what I'm living for today is not for me. And so if I were to dig down in that building of my life and see where are those false foundations, a lot of times I think it says Eric down there. It doesn't say Jesus.
Yeah.
And a lot of my decisions are based on Eric, not on Jesus. And I think that when the way that Jesus would have me live in these moments is to make those decisions based on the benefit of others. So no matter what kind of day I'm having, no matter what kind of situation I'm going on, how do I live that for others? And as Andrew pointed out, living the pastor world or the church world, it's easy to feel like you're doing that all of the time. And I would say for those of you who are in service-based
ministry
jobs, right? So if you're a nurse, if you're a teacher, if you're a caregiver, if you're somebody or administrative assistant, if you're somebody that has to do things for other people and customer service wise, it's easy to think, oh man, I'm doing this for other people. But it's also important that you get refilled and that you don't put them in the foundation. Don't put your patients in the foundation. Don't put the people in your congregation that you're serving in the foundation. Don't put your customers in the foundation. Put Jesus there, which means that you have to be refilled as well. So taking that time to go, what's important for me so I can continue to live the way that Jesus would, but not in a selfish way where I'm focusing on what I want. So those are just some random thoughts that I had as it was coming through here. But what are some things that you want to share with us moving forward that you think we should do throughout the week here?
Yeah, I think when you look at it, and I just read a recent article that said the average American spends 2 hours and 30 minutes a day on social media. And that is just the average person who spends that amount of time. And so think about it, that much time just on social media, checking out Facebook, scrolling endlessly through this space. What if instead of spending so much time, what if we took some time to really use that hour that we wished that we had doing all those things that we wish that we could do? So what if you took a break and you said, you know what, hey, I'm going to put Facebook down today, or I'm going to put YouTube down today, and instead I'm going to make this the most of my time. And what would that look like if, maybe for a week, you said, you know what, man, I'm going to really put this thing down so that I can spend some time with my family or I can do the things that matter most. And that's what we want to encourage you to do, maybe even this week with your small groups or with a group of friends. Take some time to kind of do a social media fast so that you can spend the most time doing things that matter. So that's what we would challenge you, encourage you. Other thing that's coming up is we've got a big blood drive that's coming. Are you on social media right now?
I was just going to say,
Eric,
when I saw 2 hours
Eric,
first of all, I'm on social media here anyway.
Eric.
But listen, 2 hours and 30
you're
minutes.
not even listening.
No,
you're not even listening, bro.
Because when you said 2 hours and 30 minutes, I thought, who are they polling? I know for some of you, you're like, oh yeah, I don't get on social media for 2 hours and 30 minutes. I'm looking at my usage from Thursday, the last actual work day that I had, and it's 2, 3, 4, 5.5 hours on social media. So for those of you that aren't on it often, or you just tune in to watch us every Monday, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm equaling out your average. So
yes.
I want to know, before you go, let us know, what does your screen time say, how many hours that you spend on social media? Because it was 3 hours and 36 minutes. It says directly on social media, and another 2 hours on things I would consider social media.
You know what that means, Eric? You're above average, bro.
Yeah, above
average.
In the things that matter, right? In that foundation.
But man, we would encourage you as a group just to hold one another accountable to do things that matter most. Another cool opportunity for that we shared this last weekend is we are doing a blood drive here at Sagebrush, and man, we're excited about that. You can get all the information about signing up and caring for somebody else through sagebrush.church/blood, and you can sign up. You can get the dates and the times for all that, but it's going to be great.
Yeah, and if you're interested in serving other people as well, if you're sitting here thinking, man, there's something I need to focus and redirect in my life, we have opportunities to serve. I'm sure somebody will put the link down in the description. You can go on our Sagebrush app, or I think it's sagebrush.church/serve for the opportunities to serve. You can even lead a life group. So if you're in a small group right now and you want to lead a small group, or if you can't find one and you're interested in that too, we could get you information on how to lead a group that's going to be able to pour into the lives of other people. But all we're trying to do is encourage you, find some way this week to serve, to give to someone else, to spend your hours, your days, your time on the things that matter. Anything else?
No, I think that's good, Eric. We got it.
All right, so on behalf of Andrew, I am Eric. We will see you next week.